Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming on such short notice. I know you were busy this morning with the giving out the, or at least being present when the gift baskets were handed out, so thank you for being here. So this is a joint press conference between the Kern County DA's office. For those of you that don't know, my name is Lisa Green, and we're holding this press conference with the Bakersfield Police Department. Chief Martin is here, and he will be addressing you in a minute. The reason for this, or the subject of this press conference, is a 39-year-old homicide. In 1979, 18-year-old Dawn Koons, Koons, was found murdered in her apartment here in Bakersfield. She was found in her bathtub, naked. Her hands, wrists were tied with the telephone cord behind her back. There was a pillowcase over her head, and some of the telephone cord was wrapped around her neck. And this case was essentially unsolved for 39 years. Her date of birth was April 27th, 1960. And the date her body was discovered was January 16th, 1979. And so I'm going to step aside and let Chief Martin talk to you. It was an investigation conducted by the Bakersfield Police Department back in 1979, and just update you on what's happened with the case. And then I'll have some concluding remarks, and then we can take a few questions. Please understand, as you'll hear, that this is now a pending criminal case, and we're unable to say some things that you would probably be interested in knowing at this stage of the case, but we did want to hold this press conference to inform the public of the arrest that was made in this case. So, Chief Martin.
Thank you. Again, thank you for coming. The location of the homicide was 220 South Real Street. The initial investigation was an extensive investigation in 1979. However, the case went cold. The case has been periodically reviewed by detectives at the Bakersfield Police Department, which is the policy of our homicide division, as cases are passed from detectives who are either leaving the division or retiring to the detectives that are coming in. And over the years, evidence has been submitted to the Kern County Crime Lab for analysis. In 2012, detectives believed that they had possible leads, and they recontacted the district attorney's office and the crime lab and began working on things. In 2015, we learned of possible DNA evidence linking the suspect to the homicide. That suspect is identified as Prentice Foreman, F-O-R-E-M-A-N, 59, 6/25 of 1957, a Bakersfield resident, 2300 South Union Avenue, and he is a long-haul trucker. It is extremely important to point out that in 1979, the detectives that worked this case had the forethought to collect every bit of evidence that they could, even though the techniques that we use today weren't even thought of at that time. And I would be remiss if not giving credit to the Kern County District Attorney's Crime Lab for their extensive work and the new techniques and new technology that they have used to try to bring this family some closure after 30 years of not knowing. December 20th, 2017, an arrest warrant was issued for Mr. Foreman. He was arrested for the murder of Dawn Ellen Koons, and the victim's brother, David Koons, was notified yesterday by our department of the arrest. Several detectives have reviewed this case over the years. Homicide detectives are traditionally assigned cold cases to review to get new perspectives and a new set of eyes on the evidence, or we re-interview people who may remember things or have things come to them at a later date. I would like to say in this holiday season, if we would use the word of hope, because we do refer to these as cold cases, but I can tell you that Kern County Law Enforcement, Bakersfield Police Department, Kern County Sheriff's Department, and the Kern County District Attorney's Office, no case is cold to us. We are constantly and continually working hard to bring closure for the families who are hurting. And we hope that this little bit of work towards this case will renew that hope for someone out there who is hurting, who has a case that has not been resolved to this point. And I will turn it back over to District Attorney Green.
Mr. Foreman has been charged with 1 count of first-degree murder with the special circumstances of murder in the course of a rape or an attempted rape, special circumstance of murder in the course of a burglary. He will be arraigned tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. in Department 15 on these charges. The case has been assigned to Deputy District Attorney Gina Pearl, who will be handling the case. She's a member of our homicide unit. And I just want to recognize today the director of my lab, Tammy No, and the technical lead of the DNA unit in the District Attorney's Office, Garrett Sugimoto, who were present, who worked, as Chief Martin indicated, tirelessly on this case. And so that's pretty much the information that we are able to give to you today. But with those comments that I made earlier about the constraints on what we're able to say at this point, we'll go ahead and take some questions for either myself or Chief Martin.
You're saying there were leads in 2012. What does that mean? Did somebody call up or? We're kind of.
Like I mentioned before, you have what's called new sets of eyes looking on it. We had 2 new detectives who had not seen this case before, and they recognized some things that they thought maybe needed some follow-up, and it turns out that their hunch was absolutely correct.
And then in 2015, they found they found DNA that was linking the suspect to the crime. Is that correct?
Yes. Again, with the new technology and the way things move, sometimes things move a little slower than we would like, but we do the best with what we have.
How difficult is it to do a cold case or to try to solve a cold case, and what maybe made this a little bit, I wouldn't say easier, but at least got a suspect?
Each case is a little bit different depending upon types of DNA. Do we have known suspects, or you have to eliminate family members? There's lots of things that go into cases when you're using DNA. So to be able to give you a specific answer on each case, I can't do that. And actually, people on this side of the room are far more apprised of being able to tell you how exactly DNA works.
With the special circumstances, is this a potential death penalty case?
Potentially it is, but it's unlikely that we will proceed on the case as a death penalty case. We have a process in place for every case, and we will go through that process. It involves me and the attorney and her supervisor, but I would say it's unlikely, given the age of the case, that we would pursue it as a death penalty case.
What would that maximum sentence look like if you elected not to pursue the death penalty?
Life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Was Coons originally from the Bakersfield area, or do you have any information about her background?
She was originally from New York and had moved to Bakersfield. She worked as a waitress.
Do you know if Mr. Foreman knew Ms. Coons prior to the alleged murder?
I do know the answer to that, but it's probably one of those questions that we don't want to get into that at this stage. A lot of your questions will be answered, I'm assuming, at the preliminary hearing, which could be as soon as 2 weeks from tomorrow.
And then, just to be totally clear, so DNA that Bakersfield Police collected in 1979 was able to, these years later, connect to Mr. Foreman?
That's correct.
Was it just a database cold hit? It just popped up as a match somewhere?
Yes, it was a CODIS hit.
Do you mind enumerating out again the full charges that have been brought against him?
Yes, it's 1 count of first-degree murder, and then there's 2 special circumstances, which is murder in the course of a rape or attempted rape, and then murder in the course of a burglary. And it's those special circumstances that would qualify for the life in prison without the possibility of parole sentence.
Can you share anything about what Ms. Coon's brother said yesterday, what the conversation went like?
The notification was made by the Bakersfield Police Department, and I don't know if the chief has any information about that.
I don't have.
I do want to say that I truly appreciate the ongoing work of the Bakersfield Police Department. I mean, the case is 39 years old, and you know, their commitment to this case and others really is commendable. I think is an understatement, but I would say that I believe this is the oldest case that I'm aware of that we will be proceeding on. And of course, you know, like every other defendant, Mr. Foreman is innocent until proven guilty, but we will start the court process tomorrow at his arraignment.
Does this happen often, where you guys are able to link a suspect to a case like this when it's so many decades have passed?
It doesn't happen often. There was another case that Mr. Jagels tried probably 10 to 15 years ago. That was a cold hit. Cold hits happen, I don't know if I should say with any kind of frequency, but a lot of times they're less serious cases. You know, it could be a burglary or something of that nature. So it just depends. I think not much of an answer, so I apologize for that.
Does Mr. Foreman have a criminal history?
We really can't comment on that today.
Lisa, there's other cold cases out there, as you know. Another very high-profile case is that of Jessica Martinez.
Yes.
That case has never been solved and an arrest has never been made. How hopeful are you that with today's developments that eventually cases like Jessica Martinez will not only, well, I guess you got to put the resources into it to crack this case, and it hasn't gone anywhere since 1990, 99, 90, 91, something like that. What can you say about that?
Well, I just thought about Nellie Martinez this morning, actually, as I was coming to work. And the only thing that I would disagree that you said, Jose, is, you know, you have to put the resources into it. And I can tell you that the Bakersfield Police Department has continuously put, as Chief Martin was describing, the resources into that case with new detectives looking at the evidence. My office has put resources into it. And I can only say, kind of echo what the chief said, that my message to Nellie and to others out there who have lost loved ones to violent crimes is do not give up hope. We have not forgotten you. And we'll continue to work those cases in the hope that there will be a resolution someday.
Do we know why Mr. Foreman was at the apartment that day?
We do, but that's probably something that we aren't able to discuss today.
So the DNA, where did you guys find it?
That's also something I just really can't get into the facts of that. I think that will become clear at the preliminary hearing.
Where was it stored for the last 40 years?
You know, I'm actually not able to answer that question. That's a good question, though.
And as far as like statute of limitations, I mean, are there any? I mean, since this is murder, does that just go out the window?
There is no statute of limitations on the crime of murder. Does that answer your question? Okay.
And Mr. Foreman, he was arrested in Bakersfield?
Correct.
And has he been living in Bakersfield since then?
I'm not aware if he's been moving or not. So.
How do you spell his first name, Chief?
I can do that for you.
Okay.
I was second to my 7th grade spelling bee. Prentis, Prentice. Foreman. Excuse me. Okay. Then, well, thank you again. Thank you all for coming, and have a happy holiday.
Thank you.